It's 12:08 on this Woo Wednesday. Talk Radio 790 KABC, The John Phillips Show, broadcasting live from my living room in Palm Springs, California. And it's time to fully reopen the state of California for business. Mr. Randy Wangs at the sports desk in Culver City.
Well, John, I finally found a fire that you can't blame on PG&E because a 43-year-old bikini-clad woman covered in scratches and soot was charged with arson in a fire in El Dorado County this afternoon.
Now, why was she wearing a bathing suit to start a fire?
I'm assuming she was going to jump into Lake Tahoe as soon as she started all these fires. But there you go, fires that weren't started by PG&E. There's one of them. Hey, it's Woo Wednesday.
It's Woo Wednesday. Yeah, baby. Woo, 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 woo.
My guess would be if you're wearing the bathing suit, that could be used against you in a court of law.
Maybe she thought she would just blend in with the revelers, the people that are enjoying the recreation of Lake Tahoe, and people wouldn't notice that she's the one that started a bunch of fires in El Dorado County.
800-222-KABC is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. Well, we had the second major debate in the California recall election take place last night, and it wouldn't be a debate in California for a public office unless it was completely chaotic. Isn't that right, Randy?
It started off about as insane as you could imagine because each candidate, there were only three candidates because Doug Osei had to pull out because he had a heart attack. It was Kevin Kiley, assemblyman from the Sacramento area, Kevin Faulconer, former mayor of San Diego, and John Cox, the guy with the bear. John Cox got 2 words into his opening statement before something really crazy happened. He got served with a lawsuit.
Let's listen.
Thank you, Mr. Cox. Your time starts now.
I want to give a shout out first to my fellow businessman. Diego Superior Court.
He got served with a lawsuit from people that worked on his 2018 campaign saying that he never paid them.
Now, that's an interesting situation. Because if you've ever had to serve someone with papers, it could be a very difficult process. Have you ever had to do that before, Randy?
I have not, but as somebody that has been served, they have to figure out where you are and where you will be at a place where you're easily accessible.
I forget who I was talking to, but I was talking to someone recently who had to serve someone with papers who was kind of a shady, slippery character. And what my friend did to make it easy on himself and everyone else involved is he called the individual and said, here's the deal. I need to serve you with papers. You can either choose to accept them or I'm going to pay someone to sit outside your house for all of eternity. Which one is it going to be? And the person said, just go ahead and serve me with papers.
Now, this complaint from Cox's old campaign aides is, 3 years old. I'm wondering if they chose to serve him now at this debate because they were afraid they'd get attacked by the bear.
Well, if you're trying to hide out from being served, I'm told that the place to do it is the Jonathan Club. Because you have to get through security to get inside the building. You have to be a member. They have a hotel that's there. So you can pretty much hang out at the Jonathan Club as long as you want to, and you don't have to worry about any process server finding you.
But yeah, that started off this debate on quite the right foot. And if you're wondering why John Cox decided to completely change directions this time around and get a bear, a ball of garbage, and a giant Monopoly board game, it's because those are the only people left that would work with him because he stiffed everyone else.
Now, which campaign are we talking about here? Because he's run and lost like 10 times.
This was his 2018 gubernatorial candidate, not to be confused with his 2000 run for governor, his 2008 run for president, his ballot initiatives that he gotten through. He has run and lost about 7 times, at least in the state of California. But he's the first to tell you, John, he is not a politician, not a career politician. He's a businessman.
He's also going to be on the show today at 1 o'clock.
Can you serve somebody over the air on a radio broadcast?
I don't know if we can serve him with papers, but right now we just served up the first question. So the first question that was asked at this debate is, what would you do with Warden Newsom's mandates? The warden has come out with all of these ridiculous and arbitrary edicts that local governments, law enforcement agencies, small business owners have to abide by. But nobody really knows what the rules are. No one knows exactly what they mean. Even if you try to comply, it's difficult to comply. And now, most recently, we're seeing it come back with the mask mandates. In Los Angeles County, you have to wear them indoors. We just learned that you also have to wear them outdoors if you're at a place like Dodger Stadium. In other states like Florida, Governor DeSantis has told local governments, you can't do that. In Florida, you are free to go about and conduct your business without being forced by your city council, your county, whatever, and forced to wear a mask if you choose not to wear one. What would you do if you were governor with the mandates was the first question. Let's listen to the bear man himself, John Cox.
Some vaccine mandates already are in place in California. Would you roll back the vaccine mandates Newsom has put in place for school workers and health workers? And would you prevent local governments from imposing their own restrictions? Mr. Cox, we'll start with you.
I think the mandates are counterproductive. And again, I think it goes back to the trust that people have in government or the lack thereof. I would not mandate it. This country believes in freedom. This country has very rarely, if ever, mandated. We did once, I believe, with the smallpox vaccine, which was, smallpox was 100 times more lethal than this. And also, smallpox didn't have animal reservoirs, and so that was a lot easier to get rid of. This disease is not going to be easy to get rid of if we can do it at all. And I think mandating erodes people's trust. I think it inconveniences people and makes people feel isolated. I think it is inviolative of our belief that we should be free to know what we want to put in our bodies and to make those judgments for ourselves. I urge people to get vaccinated. I did and my family did, but I think mandating it is counter to what America stands for.
And just to make sure, yes or no, would you roll back the vaccine
This
mandates?
state is the only state in the country that's mandated this, and I think that shows something. So yes, I would. I would not mandate.
And would you prevent local governments from imposing their own mandates?
I'd have to consider the circumstances, but I might, yes.
So Cox is one of these guys. He's like me. He got COVID. I think he got COVID very early on in the pandemic.
Did he get it from the bear?
Well, it is zoonotic, so it's possible. Although I don't think he could get it from the big pile of trash, but he could get it from the bear. So he got it. He had symptoms. He was sick with it. He recovered from it. He got the natural antibodies, and then he went out and got the vaccine. So he has super immunity, so I'm sure the mask mandates piss him off as much as they piss me off. Here's Kevin Faulkner's crack at the piñata.
Mr. Mayor, we'll go to you.
Oh, thank you. I believe, again, that we have to let our local health officials and our doctors make those decisions on a case-by-case basis and a regional basis.
So he would pass it off to the fake doctor?
Oh, that's not a good answer.
I was very vocal about that, particularly in the early days of the pandemic as mayor. And in fact, our county urged for us to have that local control because we were put in a situation where the situation in San Diego was the same as Los Angeles. Vastly different. Largest state in the country. And so, no, it's not about mandates. It's about letting the local public health officials make those decisions for themselves. And we're not going to mandate our way out of COVID-19, but we can and we must educate our way out of it and encouraging people to get the vaccine. As we start to see these numbers go up, it's a constant effort. We can't stop. We cannot stop until we get on the other side of this, and this is something I feel very, very strongly about.
So, yes or no, would you roll back the mandates that Newsom has put in place statewide?
I do not support statewide mandates, and I will allow local counties and local public health officials to make those decisions.
So if Kevin Faulconer's governor, the fake doctor can do whatever she wants.
Here's where I am with that answer. If you had any faith at all in your local public health officials, what he said makes sense. And this is where the part of the state that you come from matters. He comes from San Diego County. San Diego County is a whole lot saner about these things than Los Angeles County. And San Francisco County, and Sacramento County. So because of that, he says, well, in San Diego, we've got it right. So go ahead and give the power to the local officials because they're doing the best job they can with the information at their fingertips. And if I came from San Diego County, I might have that attitude. But knowing what we're dealing with in Los Angeles County, if the state doesn't step in to save us, Barbara Ferrer is going to come in with her ridiculous edicts that are never going to end. The Board of Supervisors has made it clear they have no interest in firing her. She has at least 3 votes on that board, maybe 4. It depends on the day that you catch Janice Hahn. So she's not going anywhere. So if you allow local governments to have jurisdiction as to whether or not you have to wear a mask or you have to get vaccinated or you have to socially distance or your restaurants are open or closed, Los Angeles County is going to be behind the 8 ball forever. Here is Assemblyman Kevin Kiley.
Thank you. Assemblyman Kiley, now to you.
Well, I would most certainly roll back the mandates because they're not based upon public health. We are the only state that has them, so do the other 49 governors not care about public health? What they're about is politics. The governor is looking for a campaign.
I'm sorry, that's way too fast. We got to slow him down here. Otherwise, people won't understand what he's saying.
Well, I would most certainly roll back the mandates because they're not based upon public health. We are the only state that has them, so do the other 49 governors not care about public health? What they're about is politics. The governor is looking for a campaign issue. So he rolls out these mandates that don't exist in any other state, and then less than a week later, he's up running ads using the millions of dollars he's raised from special interests, warning that if the recall succeeds, then his opponents will roll back these mandates and COVID's going to spread. Once again, he's playing politics with COVID, and he's playing politics with the vaccine.
That's what he said.
I don't know which one's easier to follow.
I think he was advised to slow down, so he's a little slower than last time at the first debate, but it's still at a double Shapiro speed.
I don't understand that because when he's on with us, he speaks like a normal person. When he's at these debates, he's the micro machine man.
Let's see if he got any clearer later.
I think that personal choice is absolutely important here. And there is a small minority of people who are opposed to and object to medical procedures of different kinds, whether that's vaccines or blood transfusions or organ transplants. And it's vitally important that we protect their rights for 2 reasons. First, we're a country that believes in minority rights. That's in our national DNA.
I think I have a headache. And it's a shame, too, because he has great ideas. He's been at the forefront of all of the battles to reopen the state. But if people don't understand what you're saying, you can't sell your policies.
I think someone slipped him a note halfway through the debate because halfway through he slows down quite a bit. But at the beginning, he was still pretty jittery. And he's only in front of the Sacramento Press Club and John Cox and Kevin Faulconer. No need to be nervous there.
They slipped him a note or they slipped him some LSD. Randy, tomorrow's Throwback Thursday.
That's right. So what, the 2 o'clock hour, we're going to give someone the chance to pick the playlist for tomorrow?
That's right. Now, last week it was listener Lisa who requested songs that had the word crazy in them. If you win today, you could pick a theme, as Lisa did, or you could pick an artist, a genre, whatever you want to do for the bumper music for tomorrow's program. So we're going to have that contest coming up the 2 o'clock hour. Right now, we're going through the sound of last night's big gubernatorial debate in Sacramento. No Caitlyn Jenner, by the way, or Larry Elder.
That's right.
Or Gordon Newsom.
Apparently, Caitlyn was busy monitoring the fires because she's very, very close to that issue. And Larry Elder said, nah.
And Gavin Newsom said, I'm picking up trash on the freeway, but I'm not doing it for publicity.
And I guess they just didn't even think to invite Meet Kevin because I'm sure he would have come.
He's on the show tomorrow, by the way.
All right. I love this guy.
Everyone will get the opportunity to meet Kevin. The next question at the debate was about whether or not each candidate supports mandatory mask wearing in schools. Here is what the San Diego Mayor, Kevin Faulconer, had to say.
All right, our next question is about masks in schools.
Do you support mask mandates for California schools? And if not, would you allow districts to mandate masks at the local level? Mr. Mayor, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I believe that's a decision absolutely should be made at the local level. Again, you're sensing a theme, I think, tonight, which is we cannot have a top-down policy because the facts of the ground are very different in virtually all parts of the state.
As governor, Los Angeles won't change one bit under Kevin Faulconer.
Again, this is a guy who comes from a county that functions. It's easy to take that position if you don't have to deal with lunatics like Barbara Ferrer and Cecily Myart Cruz. Because if you're relying on those people to get with the program, you'll be waiting a very long time.
Speaking of Cecily Myart Cruz,
our learning spaces are special places.
I love the emphasis.
And it certainly is in Los Angeles, which is different than Sacramento, which is different than San Diego. I kicked off my campaign in Los Angeles in front of a public school that was closed. And I picked that location because right across the street was an open private school, the same grade, where teachers were safely teaching and kids were safely learning. Why? Because that school reported to parents. But yet the public school that I was in front of that ultimately reported to Gavin Newsom was closed. That's what I'm talking about. Folks can make the decisions and keep teachers in the classroom safe, keep our kids safe, and it's not about a statewide mandate. You have to allow those choices to be made at the local level, and I will support those choices being made at the local level.
Thank you, Mayor Faulconer.
So Faulconer subscribes to the do no harm rule. However, since we have one crack at this, I think we need a little bit more than do no harm. We need someone who's going to be up there trying to force the local authorities into doing the right thing, because that's the only hope the people of LA County have. Here's Kevin Kiley on the same subject.
Assemblyman Kiley.
Well, I'm absolutely against a statewide school mask mandate. California is in the minority of states that has that. And when you look to other countries, like the United Kingdom, for example, they've said we're not going to do a mask mandate for elementary schools because the harms, for example, to a child's development far outweigh any benefits. And those benefits are actually quite uncertain as well. And so I would not have that in place. And I would, certainly do whatever I could to make sure that this choice was in the hands of parents who are the ones who know what is best for their kids.
I didn't really get any of that. Let's slow him down a little bit here.
I'll say as a final point that ideally we would have a well-developed school choice system in California so that, if you wanted to send your child to a school where masks were required, then you could. And if you wanted them to send them to a masked optional school, then you could.
I'm telling you, when we slow him down, he sounds like a Disney villain.
But you can figure out a little better what his policy is. At some point, I don't have to do this anymore because he does slow down a little bit. But right now, he's still a little speedy.
And here's the bear aficionado, John Cox.
Thank you. Mr. Cox, we'll go to you next.
Yeah, I would agree that the mask mandate is not the right way to go. Ireland also did a study and found that the mask didn't help at all. And frankly, I think there's some damage associated with this. Our children are already scared enough about this. More children died of the flu than have died of COVID, and we never required masks when we had the flu. But I think this also goes, and I'll second what Mr. Kiley said, and that is this wouldn't be the case if we had total school choice. We got to give the $15,000 that we're spending for each child and give it to the parents. The parents found out during this pandemic how little control they have of their own kids' education. Gavin Newsom had plenty of choice about where his kids went to school. And in point of fact, his kids did go to school in front of a teacher. But he hypocritically, along with all the other politicians, said no, parents can't choose a school for their children. Well, you know what? One of my first roles as governor is to lead the people of this state, the parents, to demand the choice of their own school, a competitive school, a quality school, where they have the choice of whether they're going to have a mask or not.
Mr. Cox, can you say yes or no whether you would allow districts to mandate masks?
I would venture to guess that I would say it would be local control again. I would argue for local control in each instance.
Thank you.
Oh, so he would let the fake doctor take over too.
Yes. Here is where they missed an opportunity. This question was an opportunity to go after the teachers' unions, because all we hear from Newsom and all we hear from other politicians, We follow the science, follow the science, follow the science. The science, as it relates to school closures, has been very clear for a very long period of time that it is safe to open them up for on-campus instruction. The reason the schools were closed was not because of the science, it was because of the teachers' unions. And the teachers' unions only came back to the table to even entertain the idea of reopening the schools if certain demands were met. One of those demands was mandatory mask wearing. The masks at the schools are about giving in to the teachers' unions so that they couldn't hold every single child in the state of California hostage. They are the villains in this story. Go after them. Right now, we're going through the sound of last night's gubernatorial debate that was held at the Sacramento Press Club in Northern California. No issue in the state of California is bigger right now than the homeless crisis. That question came up at the debate. Here's Kevin Kiley.
All right, well, let's move on to our second topic, housing and homelessness. We'll be asking Assemblymember Kiley to respond first. As of January 2020, that's before the pandemic, an estimated 150,000 people were unhoused in California. Affordable housing is just one piece. Each of you have detailed plans to address housing and homelessness, but accomplishing those plans will take cooperation with a Democrat majority state legislature. As governor, how will you work with Democrats to take your plans from an idea to a reality with roughly a year until re-election? Assemblymember Kiley, your time starts now.
I'd say first that I have, worked where I can and tried to build bridges where I can, and have authored bipartisan legislation that has passed our legislature on a variety of topics. But it's true that as one member of the legislature, I certainly haven't been able to create the kind of fundamental change.
Nice doing it again. Sorry, I got to slow him down.
I'd say first that I have, worked where I can and tried to build bridges where I can, and have authored bipartisan legislation that has passed our legislature on a variety of topics. But it's true that as one member of the legislature, I certainly haven't been able to create the kind of fundamental change we need on issues like housing and homelessness. And the legislature and the governor have refused to act in any meaningful way. In fact, the situation has only continued to get worse in spite of massively higher spending.
And Kiley made the point that he thinks that if the recall passes and someone like him becomes governor, there will be a ripple effect where everyone in the California legislature will be afraid for their jobs and they'll start to act on something like homelessness.
Okay, I'll give you two words that disprove that theory. Lorena Gonzalez. Do you think there's anything that could happen on this planet that would cause that woman to change her mind?
No, not one bit.
If the planet gets hit by a meteor, she's still going to be screaming about Uber. That's just how she's built. By the way, I have this theory that if Newsom survives, but the vote is close, she's going to be one of the ones that runs against him from the left in the next election, and she's going to try to stick the knife in.
I think he's vulnerable no matter what the outcome of this recall is, and he's definitely going to get primaried, because you remember that poll from a few weeks ago where the recall itself was close, but there was a good 10-point majority in they don't want Newsom in 2022.
That's right. And she was going to run for Secretary of State, but he appointed Shirley Weber to that post when it became vacant, and that took that office away from her. So she's looking for something to run for, and he's unpopular. So put a pin in that. And remember, I told you what was going to happen first. Here's John Cox on homelessness.
Mr. Cox.
Yeah, this is another area. These two crises are really affecting this state. And it's the politicians and the media personalities that we've elected. And it's about time.
Wait, what media personalities have we elected?
The only one I can think of is Donald Trump. Is he taking a shot at Trump?
I think he's trying to take a shot at Larry Elder, but Larry Elder hasn't won anything yet. And, of course, as you know, John Cox is not a politician.
Well, if there's anything he knows about, it's not winning.
It's about time we had a businessman that would go right to the cause of the problem. The cause of the problem is government. Government regulations, the lawsuits, the delays, all the mandates. those have to be curtailed. The first day I'm in office, I call a special session of the legislature. I bring them all in, and I present a package of detailed reforms that get to the cause of the problem. Same thing with homelessness. The cause of the problem is the cost of building, which, by the way, happens to be the business I'm in. I build and manage multifamily housing. But it's also...
Is he starting off with the cost of housing is the problem with homelessness?
Oh, no. No. Don't fall in that trap door, John. Don't do it.
But it's also the result of years of neglect. We have got to get people treated. Over half of the people that are living on the street are there because they're either addicted or because they're mentally ill. We are doing no good just putting them in a hotel room or buying hotels. What we need to do is get them treatment. Britney Spears didn't need a conservator. The people living on the street deserve a conservator to make sure they get the treatment, they get the job training, and they get a chance to live a wonderful, productive life.
Unfortunately, that's the second time John Cox has tried to make that a soundbite, and it's just not taking.
Well, of all of the candidates, the candidate who has made homelessness or ending homelessness a centerpiece of his program for California, it's Kevin Faulconer. San Diego, when he was mayor, was a big city in California who dealt much better with their homeless problem than other big cities like Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Oakland. Here he is on the subject of homelessness.
Mayor Faulconer.
No, I appreciate the question. Homelessness is not a partisan issue. It's a moral issue. And letting someone live outdoors in an unsafe, unclean, unsanitary environment means they're going to die in that environment. We're better than that. I completely changed how we did things in San Diego. I did not allow tent encampments on the sidewalk. Why? Because we care about people. We care about people enough not to let you die out there on the streets. Set up a series of shelter networks. I picked the locations myself. Provided all the wraparound services with our providers across San Diego and the county. We helped people get back on their feet. And by the way, all the changes that we made, to answer your question on the legislature, I did supermajority Democrat City Council, the city of San Diego. It's about doing what's right. And when you phrase things in terms of common sense, in terms of helping people, and people see the actual results, then you gain that support. That's the approach I took as mayor. That's the approach I'm going to take as governor, because this issue cries out for real leadership. And you can say, throw all the money in the world at it. But if you don't have the political will to make a difference on the streets, it's not going to change.
You know, Randy, long before the pandemic took hold of the globe, Kevin Faulconer was planning on running for governor against Gavin Newsom. And in a pre-pandemic world and a pre-BLM world, the issue in California was going to be homelessness, and he was positioned in the strongest way to go after Newsom on that subject. What screwed things up for Faulconer is when the shutdown happened, that's when the school closures happened. When the BLM riots happened last summer, that's when the crime rate started to go up. When the shutdowns happened, that's when EDD fraud became a big issue. All of these issues that didn't exist or didn't exist to the extent that they do today, that were nothing issues, suddenly bubbled up. And while the homeless crisis is absolutely still a crisis, and it's unavoidable, you see it every time you leave your house.
You
Doesn't
smell
matter
it.
where you live. You smell it, you see it, you feel it, you taste it, you touch it.
It offends all the senses.
It does. But because those other issues are almost as equal to the homeless issue, that kind of makes the homeless issue get lost in the crowd, and that takes a little bit of the luster off of the Faulconer campaign.
If this was a one-issue campaign, he'd run away with it because he was the only mayor of a major city in California to show the numbers go down.
Absolutely. Right now, we're going through the sound of last night's gubernatorial debate that included John Cox, Assemblyman Kevin Kiley, and former San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulconer. Not appearing at the debate, Caitlyn Jenner, talk show host Larry Elder, and Warden Newsom. Because they weren't there, of course, the moderators of the debate tried to stir the pot with some of them by bringing up Larry Elder's name. Larry Elder, of course, is a libertarian philosophically, And if you're a libertarian, you believe in minimal government. And that includes all kinds of regulations, including minimum wage regulations. They tried to bait the candidates into going after Larry on that subject. Let's listen to how it went. Here is Kevin Kiley.
All right, our final topic will focus on the economy and unemployment. Assemblymember Kiley, we're going to start with you. California is the 5th largest economy in the world, but affordability is a real issue for Californians. Many just feel priced out when it comes to upward mobility and economic opportunity. Larry Elder, the leading Republican candidate in this race, has suggested that California eliminate the minimum wage. Do you agree? And what do you think is a livable wage? Your time starts now.
Well, I don't agree that we should eliminate the minimum wage, and there is a federal minimum wage that California policymakers can't touch. I will say that it's not an especially relevant issue right now because you have McDonald's paying $22 an hour just to get people to come into work. We have so badly managed our unemployment system and the incentives that we haven't gotten people the help that they need when they lose their job, but now we're putting incentives in place that make it economically irrational to go back to your job. So
Okay, he pivoted at the right time, but he's speeding too fast when he made that turn.
Is he in danger of going off the road?
A little bit. Let's move on.
All right. Here is businessman John Cox.
Thank you, Mr. Cox.
I sure wish Larry were here to defend that position, and he should be. But listen, the cost of living in this state is absolutely outrageous. I mean, it is the largest single factor pushing people out of the state. First of all, again, the cost of housing is outrageously high. I've already demonstrated that I know what's being done in California that's different in other states, and those things I'll address as the governor of the state. But I'm also addressing taxes. Taxes in this state are outrageously high. A family that makes between $55,000 and $285,000 a year pays at a 9.3% rate. I'm a CPA. Believe me, that.
Oh, by the way, that was his new thing. The drinking game for John Cox is I'm not. He didn't do the I'm a businessman. He kept saying I'm a CPA, so I can get this budget under control because I'm an accountant.
Does he have polling that shows that the public has warm feelings towards CPAs?
He must. Although I don't know about that.
Rate. I'm a CPA. Believe me, that's double what the millionaires in Colorado pay. The taxes in this state, you add in the gas tax, the sales taxes, all the other taxes, people in this state are literally being taxed to death. With the cost of housing going into every cost, into health care, it's in food, it's in clothing, so is the cost of taxes. So I've proposed the largest tax decrease, 25%, $30 billion. We're going to reduce the cost of living so that people can actually stay and live in a.
So there you go. Cox did not take the bait, and he pivoted to his tax platform.
But again, it doesn't sound relevant to what we're dealing with today. Yes, I support tax cuts. Yes, we are taxed too much in California. But the primary problem is that the warden and regulators have their foot on our throat. If you don't know if your business is going to be open or not, if you don't know if you're going to be able to go to work or not because your kids may not be able to go to school for on-campus instruction, then what does the tax rate matter? You have to open up this economy so people's businesses can be operational and people can clock in at the plant. Right now, some industries have that, some don't. All of them have uncertainty because no one knows what the warden's going to do tomorrow. Here is former San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulconer.
Thank you, Mr. Cox. Mayor Falconer.
Well, Larry Elder should be here to defend his positions, but he's not, because I think many of those are absolutely indefensible. I was reading some this morning, and I wrote it down. When he said that women, quote, no less than men, that they are easier to, quote, manipulate.
Wait a
and
minute.
that he believes that it's okay.
Can you imagine if Larry Elder and Caitlyn Jenner were there on stage? Caitlyn might take umbrage to that.
You know, I don't know about this position of Larry Elder, but it sounds like maybe that Kevin Faulconer thought he was listening to the Larry Elder show, but he was really listening to the Tom Leykis show.
He said that women, quote, no less than men, that they are easier to, quote, manipulate, and that he believes that it's okay to discriminate against women, including pregnant women, in the workplace. That's bull.
Woo!
He's taking a page out of the warden's book with
And
the potty mouth.
I had to edit that. I didn't know there was going to be a curse word on the Sacramento Bee's website this morning.
See, he's another guy that doesn't seem like he's a prolific swearer. There are people who are prolific swearers, and you just kind of expect it. When Bob Beckel drops an F-bomb on this program, we don't even bat an eye. In fact, I think you got carpal tunnel hitting the dump button.
You just expect it. We actually increase the delay when he comes on.
But with Kevin Faulkner, the F-bomb came out of nowhere.
Well, it was a BS bomb.
That's bull.
Oh, all I heard was the beep, so I just assumed he went for the gold.
Well, I'm sure that'll be the next time he gets asked about Larry Elder, because this is the story that's coming out of this whole debate, is that Kevin Faulkner, not a fan of Larry Elder.
All right, we've got 2 more hours coming up on the John Phillips Show. Businessman and candidate for governor John Cox joins us next as part of the Total Recall Hour. Don't you go anywhere. This is the John Phillips Show, live and local, right here on Talk Radio 790 KABC.